Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk OMMA. I'm your host and agency PIO, Portia Riley. Today, I'm joined by Kyle Flood, our Compliance Complaint Manager and Special Functions Unit Manager. Thanks for sitting down with us. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
All right, well, let's get into it. I just want to start with, what are the responsibilities as a Compliance Complaint Manager and Special Functions Unit Manager?
As the manager, I think just ensuring that the needs of my team members are met, that's probably my first role. If they've got the tools that they need, then they can go out there and succeed for the people. Secondly, is just ensuring that we're delivering a quality product to the citizens as far as complaint response and whatever special function we might have to carry out. We really want to do a good job, collect data and report that to where it needs to go, be as thorough as possible for both parties, both the business owners and the citizens making the complaints.
And then what steps are taken after a complaint comes in?
So whenever a complaint comes in, it's analyzed and it's triaged, and then we will assign that out. It'll be researched, and then after all of those steps are taken, then we will go out. We don't like to go out on a knee-jerk reaction. We really want to have a background on what we're doing before we go out and do it.
And I know we look into every complaint that comes in. How are complaints prioritized, including the order in which they're addressed?
Patient and public safety and health are paramount to anything else, and we really want to ensure that any complaint that comes in involving those things are really analyzed closely, and we get the reports of those to leadership or wherever else they need to go to another agency and referred out or however that needs to be taken care of. And then after that, sometimes it may be the way it falls in line of the way it's reported, but we're certainly looking at all of them to make sure that we prioritize the ones that where time may be of the essence.
What are some of the most common complaints that you all see?
We get a lot of reports of dispensaries maybe selling to unlicensed folks out there. We get distances to schools, which my team, I know, has gone out with a roll of tape, GPS, with spotting scopes, and looked and made sure that these places that are reported as too close to school, that they are outside of those boundaries. So we do take our job very serious.
I feel like that's a testament to it, taking the roll of tape out to make sure that not only patients are safe, but also these students that are in schools relatively close to these dispensaries.
Sure, yeah. I know for a fact that at least two of my team members have walked those distances with the roll of tape to make sure that they were abiding by the rules.
What are some of the top challenges that you all face?
Probably the volume of complaints to inspector ratio. We're a large state, 77 counties, and the amount of complaint inspectors that we have, it's a big assignment to go out and try to field all these, but we just kind of approach it like anything else that you do. We one step at a time and try to make sure that we get these knocked out.
Are there any common mistakes that people make when submitting a complaint? And if so, what advice do you have for them?
I think at times that people will be very passionate about the way they feel about a particular business, and they will send us those opinions or feelings in the form of a complaint, and it may not apply to the rules or regs or Oklahoma statutes that can be enforced. The advice that I would give to anybody that's wanting to lodge a complaint with OMMA is to go ahead and go to the OMMA website and look over the rules and regulations that are posted on there and see if the thing that you're so passionate about applies to one of those rules and regs before you submit your complaint. And if it does, even attaching that specific rule to your complaint is helpful.
Talk to how serious that you guys take everything that you're seeing coming in.
If we're not taking a close look at every complaint that comes in online, then we could be missing something that could be harmful to a patient or the public or even an employee of a business. So we do, as a team, do our due diligence to inspect every one of those complaints and analyze that and take it from there for the triage.
On average, how many complaints do you all see a day?
Probably 100 a month.
Let's dive deeper into the special functions side of your role. Talk about how you partner or you all partner with other departments within our agency to get some of these tasks accomplished?
So whenever people lodge complaints and submit those complaints online, sometimes they may not apply to compliance, but we can recognize it and see, well, maybe this will apply to labs or to legal or to commercial licensing or enforcement even. So whenever we do take a good look at those, if there is any question that maybe it's not us, but we can get it where it needs to go to be addressed, we still will push that on and keep that paper trail going to make sure that there's some accountability for that complaint.
What are you looking to achieve in your role?
Portia, this is a new role, not only for me, but for the agency as well. So, as much servant leadership and just doing the people a good job is what I'm trying to do.
With this being a new role, how does it feel to be given the opportunity to define it?
It was heavy initially. I've always been in a role where it's always existed, and you knew the expectations coming in. And my bosses, Chief Reddish and ACO Ogles, they've done a very good job of guiding me and leading me and preparing me for everything that I've faced so far. So it's been a welcome challenge.
And then tell me a little bit about your background and the journey that led you to OMA. I know you mentioned having a background in law enforcement.
I did. So I grew up kind of on the wrong side of the tracks, so to speak, a family of outlaws, and I was definitely an underprivileged child. My sisters and I, we all kind of beat the odds and ended up in respectable careers, and mine took me to the path of law enforcement. And so I did that for almost 20 years. My last job was a state agency that for a police job it was probably the dream police job. I got to hear the director speak one time, and Director Barry was just she's very passionate in what her mission was, and it was kind of inspiring to be honest. So I took the leap on a career change, and I come in as a inspector, and it's been a very welcoming journey.
What are some of the skills that you learned or experienced in your law enforcement career that correlate with your position here at OMA?
Talking to a variety of personality types and a variety of people. In law enforcement, you're doing that every day. You're talking to people of different social status or ethnicities or whatever the day brings you. And Oman's kind of the same way. It's been the Green Rush has brought people from all around the country, and a lot of good Oklahomans as well. And I've got to meet a lot of really nice people, and I've learned a lot of things.
From listening to you talk, I can tell you're very passionate about protecting people. Do you feel like having a rough upbringing played a role in your mentality now?
I think that's fair to say. I think that being around that rough environment at a young age and growing into where I'm at now, I'm able to speak to a variety of different people. And I understand that sometimes people have bad days. And even if you're on an inspection, people are flustered and sometimes they're nervous. And me and my team, we're there for the businesses just as much as we are for the complainants to gather these facts and present these facts.
You're dealing with complaints day to day. How do you and your team stay motivated in that kind of challenging environment?
I think that the variety of complaints that we respond to and the variety of people that we get to visit with and the different businesses keep our team motivated and finding a solution to these problems, whether it be a complaint or finding one unfounded, gives us a goal and a purpose. And I'm very lucky to have the team members that I do that I really don't have a problem getting them motivated. They are pretty high speed, and I appreciate all of them.
I feel like that's one thing that's been the same across the board with everyone that I've spoke with so far. They always talk about how rewarding it is to work with the people that are here. And I just love hearing that every single time you talk to somebody. It really is a testament to the kind of atmosphere that we work in and the kind of family oriented team that we have here. Now it's time for the hardest question of all. I ask this to every single person that comes on the podcast. What is your favorite thing to do outside of work?
My newest favorite thing to do outside of work is I've got a 3-month-old grandbaby, and I hang out with him a lot. But if that wasn't my answer would be traveling with my wife. We do a lot of traveling, and we do a lot of road trips, and we just like to see different places in the U.S. and sometimes in the world. And I'm very lucky and very fortunate that we've been able to build that life together.
What's your favorite place that you've been so far?
A place called Smoot, Wyoming. It's in a part of Wyoming called the Star Valley, and the ambient light is so little that the stars in Milky Way are as bright as I've ever seen.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything that you would like to say or add that maybe I didn't ask or touch on?
No, this was fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Well, thanks again for being here. And thank you to the listeners for tuning in to another episode of Let's Talk OMMA.